Judge!
Hello, and welcome to the Cinema Judge. To all my regulars out there, welcome back. Now, if you're new to the show, let me briefly give you an explanation of what we do here at the Cinema Judge. We love movies and like sharing movies with you. We're not here to yell at Hollywood, complain, any of that stuff. I'm not even here to tell you not to see a movie. I'm only here to give you the evidence. The studios, they send us interviews, on-the-set footage, clips, you name it. We put it together to make one giant infomercial. You being the jury, you listen to the evidence, and you determine, do you want to see this movie or not? Consider this a movie oasis, a place we could come and just learn about a movie, no distractions, because any movie is somebody's favorite movie. Because at the end of it all, we all want to spend our hard-earned money wisely, because we all want the same thing, an enjoyable movie experience. Now, approach the bench today, we have the third installment to the Ant-Man series, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. In a nutshell, this is what the movie's about. Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie, has built her own machine that could survey the quantum realm. So what happens is, she builds it, and everybody involved from her dad, Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, Dr. Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and of course Casey, they all get pulled into the quantum realm. There they meet up with the bad man of all bad men, Kang the Conqueror. Here's a trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
You're an interesting man, Scott Lang. You're an Avenger. You have a daughter. But you've lost a lot of time, like me. We can help each other with that. Who are you? I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want. What's that? Time.
It can rewrite existence and shatter timelines. You cannot trust him.
I don't care who this guy is. I just lost so much. He can give us a second chance.
Let me make this easy for you. You will bring me what I need, or everything you call a life will end.
This is all my fault.
You may not want her to watch this.
We had a deal.
Thought you could win.
I don't have to win. We both just have to lose. I'm sorry, Cassie.
Alright guys, that was the trailer. Now, before I start off too far here, we have a lot of great interviews today. So I'm going to do the best I can to get out of the way and just have them talk. Because we all know you're here for them. That's the key. They're here to tell you and explain everything about what's going on. And I'm going to do my darndest to do my best to avoid all spoilers, or as many as I could possibly do without them telling you stuff. I'm not here to spoil anything for anybody, because who knows when you're listening to this? Could be the day after it drops or 2 years from now. And you might not have seen the movie yet. Who am I to say? But that's the goal here. I'm going to have a couple interviews I'm just going to play back to back because I don't want to step on their toes. First, we're going to hear from the director, Peyton Reed. Now, other than this and Mandalorian and stuff like that, he's mostly known for the movie Bring It On. But in this one, he found a sweet spot and he just brings it home. So first we're going to hear from him talking about the character in the movie, and then we go on to Paul Rudd, also talking about how this whole series is based on family, and we go back to the director again, and he talks about his character development, where he's gone throughout the years in each film, and then we go to the red carpet with Paul Rudd again, talking about the family. The core of this whole series is about the family, unlike most superhero things. And then we're going to go to a clip. And in that clip, we're going to have Ant-Man, the Wasp, and the Ant-Man's daughter in a car, and they're driving, and they're talking about her inventing her stuff. And it's a fun family conversation. That's why this whole thing is about family. And then that one's just them in the car, just talking like a family does while he's listening to his own audio book.
Well, I think Quantumania is very much an Ant-Man movie. We continue the story of the Langs and the Pyms and the Van Dynes and tell that family story and sort of progress the story, the family dynamics. But this time we take them deep down into the quantum realm, further than they've ever been. So really, the Ant-Man movies have always been about family, so it's telling the story, the generational story of this family of heroes, but now putting them up against the most formidable villain they've ever faced, and that's Kang the Conqueror.
I think Scott's role or feelings about being a superhero have changed since the first Ant-Man, and that he's accepted it now. I think he's been through a lot, clearly. At the beginning of the first Ant-Man, he had no idea about super suits or being he didn't really know what the Avengers were. So he was a regular guy. A regular guy just getting out of jail. And now, however many years later, 8, 9, and also with quantum realm and snaps and timelines, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's more. He has been through a lot. He's grown up. He's saved the universe. He's missed 5 years. So, I mean, a lot's happened to this guy. And as a result, he's gained knowledge. So when we start in Quantumania, Scott he's doing all right. He's taking a little bit of a victory lap. He feels good because all that stuff is in the rear view mirror. And now he finally gets to do what he wants to do, which he hasn't been able to do for the last 8 or 9 years, which is breathe, relax, and spend some time with his daughter. And that lasts for about 5 minutes.
When we shot the first Ant-Man, Scott Lang was an ex-con who was down on his luck. He'd made some bad choices, but he was really operating outside of the Avengers. He was really playing in the margins. Now, by the time we're in our third Ant-Man movie with Quantumania, he's a full-fledged Avenger. And in fact, he's written a book about the battle with Thanos and his rise to becoming a hero. But now we're going to put him front and center in Quantumania. Ant-Man and Wasp are the first Avengers to face off with Kang the Conqueror. So it's been fun to see Scott Lang move from someone who was outside of the Avengers to now being front and center.
Well, I think the first 2 Ant-Man movies really focused a lot on family and the relationship between parents and kids, and I think that is definitely true in this one. I mean, the situation is a little different and it gets a little crazy, but I think those themes are constant.
I promised your mom that you would only use this stuff when one of us was around. It's really dangerous tech.
I know, it's dangerous.
What if the cops took it from you, huh? What if you lost it?
I didn't lose the suit.
You have a suit? Wait, you have a suit?
I know how to take care of myself, okay? Trust me, I'm pretty good at it by now.
Ouch.
Look, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's all right. I get it. I just think you should get to have a normal life.
Dad, a guy dressed like a bee tried to kill me in my room when I was 6. I've never had a normal life.
How about some music?
And in that moment, all I could think was, how did the Hulk turn me into a baby? Will I be a baby forever? Am I the Hulk's baby?
Dad, are you listening to your own book?
But I was ready for anything.
No, that's, this is the radio.
Turn it off.
It's so weird. Something's wrong with this switch. It won't turn
I
up.
said turn it off.
What's that? Turn it up? All right.
A little after that, a raccoon from space showed up. I don't think he knew my name. I was just happy to meet a raccoon who could talk.
That's what I love about Ant-Man, this whole trilogy so far. They have a lot more humor than most of them, except for the last couple Thors. I mean, they were flat out just outrageous in a good way, I mean. But most of these Marvel movies or DC movies, whatever it is, there's not much comedy. But what Paul Rudd does, and the writers do obviously, they intertwine humanity, the day-to-day humor, just because he's just a guy, just a normal guy like any of us. And that's what he talks about next in this next interview, Paul Rudd. He talks about why this character resonates with all of us so personally, because he is just a guy. He's not a billionaire with something in his chest or some alien from another country, or another planet, or a god, all that jazz. Those stories are all great, but it's very hard to relate to him. But this guy, he's just a guy. So Paul Rudd talks about that in this next interview. And then after that, we're going to hear from the director. And he talks about, again, this movie delving into more family stuff. All the families, from Paul Rudd and into the Pyms, all those dynamics. And that's what really, it sets this movie and series apart. And then we're going to hear from monster, mega, super producer, the mastermind behind the whole MCU, Paul Feige. You're going to hear him on the red carpet. And he's going to talk about how we saw stuff in the last phase 4, and now how this one kicks off phase 5. And then immediately after that, we're going to have a featurette. Now, in this featurette, there's clips from interviews, clips from scenes, and what they do is it's more of a legacy featurette. It's going to kind of take us from the very beginning to where we're at now. So you're going to hear interviews and also clips from previous movies and Avenger movies, just so you have a heads up. And at the end of the show, I'm going to give you a website so you can watch this, because originally this is the TV version, which I make into the podcast. So if you're interested in watching this, because there's a lot going on in these videos that they maybe can't get complete oomph from the audio part. So at the end, I'll give you that website. But in the meantime, here's the interviews and that.
Well, all right. I think if Scott Lang or Ant-Man resonates with Marvel fans, it might be the fact that he is a regular guy with no innate superpower, that he's a father, that he is conflicted between being a regular guy who wants to just be a dad and being a superhero, and he tries to find the balance of those two things. I think that is something that people can relate to. Certainly parents can relate to, just being a parent and then having their job or trying to do what it is they need to do and balance all of that. But I think those struggles are relatable. And the fact that he's a regular person thrown into this extraordinary circumstance is kind of fun to watch, because it makes people think, well, what would I do if I was in that situation?
Well, it's great because, this third time out, we get to sort of spend more time with the Langs and the Pyms and the Van Dynes and the family and kind of deepen those family dynamics. But we're doing it now in a very, very strange place. We're taking these familiar characters and thrusting them further down into the quantum realm than we've ever been before. So that presented a great opportunity for, our new characters to mingle with our old characters. And they meet some pretty strange people down there.
This is, of all of our films we've done since Endgame, this is the one that connects to the bigger picture. And that's what I'm excited about. Phase 4, we introduce a lot of fun, great characters on Disney Plus and in theaters, and all of whom will be very important going forward. But now finally kicking off Phase 5, people are going to start to see the bigger picture as we get towards the next Avengers film. So that I'm very excited for that part.
Scott, I need you to be the Ant-Man. You have a chance. The chance to earn that look in your daughter's eyes. To become the hero that she already thinks you are. Second chances don't come around all that much.
Is this an old message?
It's the front gate.
Time works differently in the quantum realm. What if we could enter at a certain point in time, but then exit at another point in time? we could bring everyone back. My whole life happened because I messed up.
Not everybody gets a chance to save the world.
Avengers!
Assemble. Scott Lang. Your reality. Everything you're holding on to. I know how it ends. Reality League. Ant-Man.
Sometimes it's nice to have a refresher. Where we've been, where we're going. Now, full disclosure, I just thought of something as that was playing. Remember how I said this is the first TV show, then I do this, the podcast? That being said, the show can't be more than 29 minutes. So when I was making this episode, at first I didn't have much. I just had the red carpet interviews with the scenes and stuff like that. So I did a show just like that. And then a little bit before the movie was released, the studio sent out more real interviews. And I'm like, oh, sweet. So I started interjecting them in the timeline. And I was all excited. I was getting it. I was like, this is fluid. And then I looked at the timeline. I'm like, oh, bugger. I'm almost at 40 minutes. So I had to kind of go in there with a hatchet and cut a lot of stuff from the TV version. So if you do watch the TV version of this, some of these things in interviews won't be there. So I apologize for any misleading there. That rarely happens, but I had so much footage, I had to lop some out. But here, I think I was able to keep everything that I had originally. So I just wanted to be full disclosure. I don't want you to go there, watch it, and go, you liar. But I ended up doing the show, I think it was 3 separate times due to the stuff I got. Neither here nor there. You probably don't care about that. But these next couple interviews talk about what these people think the audience will be looking forward to seeing from the quantum world to Kang. And I just really love to dig in these people's minds, or not me, but have the interviews ask them this. What do you think the people are looking forward to, and get their perspective? And in these interviews, first we're going to hear from producer Stephen Brassard, and then Evangeline Lilly, who plays the Wasp, and then Kevin Feige. And just cool getting in their head, seeing what they think people are looking forward to.
I'm most excited for the audiences to discover the quantum realm as a place and feel like it's this massive world that we've only just glimpsed a little bit of in this movie. Maybe there's more stories to tell there. And I'm excited for them to meet Kang, who's going to be such a big presence moving forward in Phase 5. And I think after they've seen this movie, where he sits and how important he will be very clear by the end of the night.
I think I'm most excited for the audience to meet Kang, to get to know Janet Van Dyne a little bit more. She is so cool in this movie. And to see the quantum realm. It's stunning.
It's really fun because this movie is not just another story. It is a continuation of this family. Much more so than any other movie. Scott Lang and Hope and Cassie, and seeing this father and daughter and multiple father and daughters. It's very funny. It's very sweet. It's very relatable. And then we throw them all down to the quantum realm and introduce Kang, which for us is something we've waited many, many years to do. We saw a little glimpse of a version of him in the season finale of Loki on Disney+, but Jonathan Majors makes a gigantic and colossal impression into the MCU with Quantumania, and I can't wait for people to see it.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but me being just I just eat up all the stuff of what it takes to make a movie and everything like that. Kevin Feige, can you imagine what's going on inside of his head, or his storyboarding in his office, or his officer? How he keeps all this stuff organized. What a responsibility, what pressure, what stress. But I would love to follow him in a day in a life. Can you imagine the meetings, the discussions with different directors, actors, trying to formulate this incredible universe that he has just, what he's done is beyond what most people could ever dream of. Very few things that weren't super successful, but not just balancing movies, but then Disney Plus characters and intertwining them into one cohesive vision. I can't even imagine the world that he lives in, but wouldn't that be the greatest TV show ever? Following him during a whole year, watching what he has to do and all the stuff. I don't know, for me that just tickles my imagination. Like, wow, what does he do day in and day out to entertain us? And that's what it comes down to. Just make us have fun and enjoy the movies. Must be this insane. But coming up next, speaking of people who really care about their stuff, we're going to hear from the director, Peyton Reed. And I love this interview. He talks about even growing up, he read these comics and he was a huge fan of Kang. And now he gets to bring that character to us and on the big screen. Could you imagine the rush that is of how surreal that could feel to somebody? Picture yourselves. What's your favorite comic or book or whatever it is that you dig? And then you get to say, I'm going to make this into something so everybody can experience it. That must be just so awesome. So we're going to hear Peyton Reed talking about that experience and then the character Kang. And then immediately after that, we're going to hear from Paul Rudd talking about Kang, the character, and they also both talk about Jonathan Majors, who plays Kang the Conqueror, and just what a wonderful actor he is. And then right after Paul Rudd talks about that, we're going to hear from Kang himself, and I just love how he describes his character and his thought process of playing Kang the Conqueror. And immediately after that interview, we're going to go into a featurette all about Kang the Conqueror. Again, we're going to have interviews, film clips, all spliced in a couple-minute mini movie or commercial talking about Kang. Check it out.
I grew up reading the Marvel comics, and I always loved Kang the Conqueror in the comic books. So it was a big challenge, which I was really excited to bring to the MCU, to create Kang the Conqueror in the movies. And fortunately, we cast Jonathan Majors in the role, and Jonathan is, he's a force of nature. We needed someone to play Kang who was a physically imposing character. He's a villain who has dominion over time. He's a time traveler. He doesn't experience life in a straight line, past, present, and future. He sort of lives these multiple timelines, and he's had all these experiences, and he's a kind of a broken man, a man who lives outside of time. So we wanted to make him the most powerful villain that Scott and Hope have ever come up against. And also we kick off Phase 5 with Kang the Conqueror. And one of, I think, the unique things about Kang is he's battling our heroes, but we come to find out he's also at war with different versions of himself, his variants.
So Kang the Conqueror is a very formidable villain. He's tough. I think we've all seen clips of Jonathan Majors without a shirt on fighting somebody in everything he's been in. And I think it's believable to think that this guy might be the baddest man on the planet. He's tough. He's an amazing actor. He's in incredible shape. And he's stepping into the shoes of Kang the Conqueror, which are big shoes to fill. Kang is actually, I believe, tougher than Thanos, who's no slouch. And he can he has variants. He can go through multiple timelines, multiple universes. He's a tough guy. And does Scott Lang have a chance? Well, you'll have to see the movie to find out for sure. But I sure like that it's the fact that Ant-Man is the one that's going to go up against this guy. Because you know what? Ant-Man's probably the toughest Avenger. And I think everybody agrees with that, right? Right? No? No.
So you guys saw me as He Who Remains, and now very soon, or if not already, you will see me as Kang. How are these characters different, and how are they the same? Well, first I'll say how they're different, and how are they variants of each other. they both have what I call, this is not in the comic books, the Kang gene, right? They have this Kang gene, and the Kang gene is this little bitty element that's inside each Kang that makes them. It's like the little chip that's in them, and they all have the same chip, though they have different operating systems. They also have different software, but they have the same chip. This is getting crazy, but that's how I'm working right now. He Who Remains is a bit more outwardly intellectual. He lives in that world a bit more. He's also physical. Kang is, by definition of his name, a conqueror. So he's extremely physically active. He's making change in his current space, in his current world. Though he's also has a very hyper intelligence. That's overall with Kangs. Kangs have hyper intelligence. That's in the comic books. How else are they different? Well, one wears flip flops and one wears combat boots. I can go on forever.
You come from above. Like him. He will burn the world to find you. Who? The Conqueror.
Kang the Conqueror is the new iconic villain in the MCU.
We knew we wanted to go to places that we'd never been, and pitting Ant-Man against a major villain felt perfect.
Audiences have seen a version of this character in the series Loki.
This is wild.
In our film, he's very different.
Kang is an infinite number of different personas. And you need an actor to be able to pull that off, and that is Jonathan Majors.
He can rewrite existence and shatter timelines. In this film, this is really a side of him we haven't seen. This is his baddest self.
I will take my revenge on those who banished me, and I will burn them out of time.
I think the film is ultimately about how time plays within our relationship. Love, friendship, legacy, Ant-Man versus Kang. This is it. People are gonna lose their mind.
You're out of your league, Ant-Man.
Well, that was the featurette talking about Kang the Conqueror. Now up next, we're going to hear from Kang the Conqueror himself, Jonathan Majors. And he's going to talk about why this character is so formidable.
What makes Kang the MCU's new and extremely formidable supervillain? One, this is a supervillain that is first and foremost flesh and blood. That is spooky because you can relate to him. The other thing is he's seen everything. He knows everything. And it is that amount of time and his relationship to time that makes him that cunning, which gives him that much uncomfortability for the things he's seen, and he has opinions on it. And he has feelings about that. Imagine having feelings about not just your life, but hundreds of thousands of millions of infinite lives. All of that emotion, all of those thoughts, all those dreams and nightmares, all in one individual. That person is extremely dangerous and is not to be reckoned with.
Now let's talk about Jonathan Majors for just a second. He is so talented, and he just everything. He's just. I can't wait to see what he keeps on doing. Just look at his career so far. Just a brief list. So bear with me. He was in the 2019 film Jungle Land, 2020 The Five Bloods, the 2020 show Lovecraft Country, and obviously from Loki, in a 2021 film, which was just awesome in my opinion, The Harder They Fall. Check that out if you haven't seen it. And in 2022, Devotion. And coming up in this year, he's going to be in this bodybuilding drama, Magazine Dreams. I mean, this guy, just look at that so far. His range is amazing. And obviously, being in such a massive movie like this, it'll draw more and more attention to him, which it should. So just a heads up, it's going to be fun to see this guy just soar. Now, new to this series is somebody else now playing Casey, and that is Kathryn Newton. And I love this interview she has next, talking about when she first saw these movies from Iron Man. She's like, I want to become an actress. And if I don't become one, I'm just going to quit by this age. And I just love the passion. It's just so fun to hear somebody talk about being excited about playing this kind of movie. That was her focus. And then after that, we're going to hear from Paul Rudd talking about how this whole series is basically the relationship between him and his daughter. And then after Paul Rudd talks about the relationship, we're going to hear from Kathryn again from the red carpet, talking about how excited she is to have the public see the character and where she's at now. And then immediately after that, we're going to do a whole featurette like we did with Kane, just talking about her character. And again, we're going to have clips, interviews, all put into one little mini commercial.
To join the MCU was the biggest dream come true. I've been dreaming about being a Marvel superhero since I saw Iron Man when I was 8 years old with my dad in the movie theater, and I said that I wanted to be the biggest Marvel superhero of all time, which is very ironic because my dream came true. Cassie Lang is the biggest superhero. She's 40 feet tall. So dream big. Don't give up on your dreams. I mean, I told myself by the time I was 25, if I'm not a Marvel superhero, then I'm not an actress and I should quit. So I just think that it's proof that dreams come true, and I can't believe it. So now I have to come up with a new dream.
Scott's relationship with Cassie, now that she's all grown up, I don't know if she's all grown up. I think she's older than, she was in some of the earlier Ant-Man films. But I think that it's Scott's relationship with Cassie is really at the core of what these movies are about. And, she's a young woman, and Scott missed a lot of time with her. And so he kind of wants to make up for lost time. And, it's when you're doing that, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for a parent to fully embrace or understand or accept that their child is no longer a little kid, especially if you miss some time. And I think that Scott wants to protect her, and he wants to be a dad. And it's tricky when I think Cassie has some ideas of her own, and Scott is a little concerned about that.
I'm really excited for the audience to discover Kang. I was so excited when I saw Kang. When I met Jonathan on set as Kang, I was scared out of my mind. And I'm really excited for everyone to meet Cassie Lang. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I feel really close to her. So I just hope everyone loves her as much as I do.
I just think you should get to have a normal life.
Dad, a guy dressed like a bee tried to kill me in my room when I was 6.
Daddy, is that you?
Hi, Peanut.
Cassie Lang wants to change the world. I have a suit.
Yeah, I noticed.
She likes the chaos. She wants to be fighting, and she wants to be in the middle of it. She's being influenced by these superheroes around her.
If I had something like this when you were gone,
I could have found you.
Cassie!
I'm sorry.
It was fun watching Kathryn take on Cassie.
She just shows up and she's just got it.
The buoyant energy of her character was so great.
She just wants to be a superhero like her dad. She wants to impress him.
Momentum, right? Jump tap.
I know how to do it, Dad.
Oh, do you?
Now, adding on to that little featurette, we're going to hear from Kathryn again, talking about why Ant-Man resonates with everybody so much, and a little bit more about her character and what happens to her.
I think Ant-Man movies resonate with audiences around the world because Ant-Man is the everyman, and I think that he's super relatable because he's just like me. He's just normal, and that's what I related to most about Cassie Lang and why I was so excited for the opportunity to bring this character to life. She's a dork, she's a mess, she's impatient, but the biggest thing is she has a really huge heart, and I know that that's a beautiful thing, but it really gets her into a lot of trouble because she doesn't understand what it means to be a hero yet. But she wants to make her dad proud, so she's going to do whatever it takes to do it.
Now, with this series, so many of these characters have come back time and time again. So actually, like in real life, they come almost family-like. And so coming up next, we're going to hear them talk about that whole process. We're going to hear from Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd, and the director, all talking about working back together again, and it just feels so natural, and again, they just feel like family.
It's a nice group. It's always a joy when you're doing a picture where you're best of friends with the whole team that you're working with. Paul sets a great tone for the rest of us, and enjoyed it a lot. It was a great shoot.
Well, it's nice when you get to work on a movie and you're working with the same actors that you've worked with in the past for several reasons. You kind of get to know each other's rhythms. You know who they are. It's fun to kind of expand on the relationships. Our understanding of our characters grows with each one, and our understanding of the relationship we have to one another. So that's really good. I think it actually helps the work, and it's also nice because it's a really nice group of people, and we get to spend time with friends at this point. So that's really exciting. And it was also great in this one to have a few new faces, Kathryn Newton and Jonathan Majors. They're such great actors to be able to watch what they do and act with them, but to spend time with them, get to know them, and hang out with them.
I think what's fun about having been able to do a trilogy of Ant-Man movies is we've been doing this for 8 or 9 years, and Paul, Michael, Evangeline, Michelle, and now Kathryn Newton and Jonathan Majors, we've sort of formed this Ant family, and we've been doing it together for a while, and the movie really is all about family and family dynamics, and behind the scenes, we have our own family dynamics. So that's been fun, is to sort of like see everybody in their real life grow as we've, grown the family in the movies themselves. So to be able to do a third one and then really blow it out and create this sort of epic, crazy family trip gone wrong was really, really fun.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear a little bit more from the director, delving a little bit further into some of the characters in the storyline.
In the last movie, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Hank and Hope successfully rescue Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm. She's been there for 30 years, and I think for Hope Van Dyne, she had this expectation, I'm going to get to know my mom again, and we're going to be able to catch up and have conversations about what her life was like down there and what Hope's life was like up here, and maybe even get some advice about how to be a hero. But we like the idea of what would happen if maybe Janet put up a little bit of a wall and is not willing to talk about her time down there. Maybe she can't, maybe there's a little bit of PTSD. And the movie really deals with the idea that she's put her past behind her, but of course, the past is never done with you, and she has to confront her past in a very real way. And what if her past included a confrontation with Kang the Conqueror? That was something that we really was central to the story of Quantumania. Very early on in Quantumania, Cassie Lang has been studying with Hank Pym and has gone through a lot of his journals over the 5 years where everybody was gone, and has become quite a knowledgeable quantum physicist in her own right. She's created a device that allows them to not go into the quantum realm, but to be able to map it out. And I think she sort of lives with that loss of her dad for 5 years. And she says, if I had been able to invent this earlier, maybe I could have found you in the quantum realm. What happens, though, is that device sends a signal into the quantum realm, which is picked up on the other end by some dark forces. And what happens is it sends a signal out, and it immediately thrusts our heroes down into the quantum realm. They had no idea they were going down there. They never wanted to go back. But they're forced to be down there now, and we find out that the reason they were thrust down there is there's someone down there who needs them, and maybe in particular needs Scott Lang and his ability to acquire things. So it's a bit of a quantum realm heist, and that someone is Kang the Conqueror.
Now, coming up next, we have a clip for you. Now, in this clip, just as you heard a little bit ago, you heard a director talking about all the relationships and how the one woman was gone for 30 years and how the daughter wanted to reconnect. But then, sometimes you don't want to talk about that because it's so traumatic. In this scene, the whole family are sitting around this device that Cassie made, and they're all just going, wait a minute, what's going on? It's just, you see that little bit of dance and that tension and just curiosity, but also fear of what's going on, but also how they're growing up and following in their footsteps.
So you've been studying the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you ask me about it?
I tried, Mom. A lot. You never wanted to talk about it.
Cassie's just been curious, and we gave her some pointers.
This isn't exactly ant science, is it, Henry? You know how dangerous the quantum realm is.
We all do, Mom. Nobody's going to the quantum realm.
That's why we made this. It's like a satellite for deep space or the ocean. But quantum. We just need a map. And then we can study and explore the entire quantum realm. Never even have to go.
Your daughter built a subatomic Hubble telescope in a basement.
If I had something like this when you were gone, and I could have found you.
Now, in that scene, we have Michelle Pfeiffer, who plays Janet Van Dyne, who was the one that went missing for so many years. Up next, we're going to hear from her. And in this interview, she talks about how her character is a little bit peeved that they went behind her back and made this device because, oh, voila! That device that she would have warned them about propels them into the quantum world. So this is her talking about that.
They were all doing a little experimenting behind my back. That's how we all ended up in the quantum realm. And Janet is not happy about it, but doesn't really have time to deal with that, because once they do end up in the quantum realm, it's about survival, and it's about Janet using her knowledge, her skills, her relationships, to try to keep them safe and get them out of there as quickly as she can.
Now, coming up next, we have some interviews from the red carpet. And in these interviews, the director, Paul Rudd, and Jonathan Majors talk about how excited they are for this movie to come out and what they think, people will be most excited to see. And then we're going to have another clip for you. And in this clip, we have Ant-Man and Kang kind of meeting up for the first time and having a little discussion about what's going on. But again, even within this scene, there's that little sliver of humor that sets this movie apart from so many other superhero movies.
Yeah, no, they are diehard fans, and I think we're the 31st MCU movie. And, I think the fans love Paul Rudd as Scott Lang. And I think that fans are also very, very intrigued with Jonathan Majors and his version of Kang the Conqueror in the movie. And we're kicking off Phase 5 and introducing this new big, bad villain into the MCU, which I'm personally very, very excited about.
Oh, I'm excited for them to see the movie. I'm excited for them to, meet Kang. Kang is an amazing villain, and hopefully just see the movie and enjoy it and get excited for everything that's going to come after.
I'm trying to stay as calm as possible, but I'm extremely excited. My family's here, my team's here, Kang is here officially, so it's something to celebrate.
You're an interesting man. Scott Lang.
I don't know who you are, but you've made a big mistake, okay? I'm an Avenger. I've called the other Avengers.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
What?
They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
It's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types. Who are you?
Just a man who's lost a lot of time, like you. But we can help each other with that.
And what could possibly go wrong with that kind of arrangement, right? Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from the director and Paul Rudd, and they're going to go back to back, back to back. They're both be talking a little bit more in depth about the quantum world and what they're going to find there and what the challenges were. And then after that, we're going to play a scene where the entire family, they're walking through like a, dare I say, a bar that's similar to the bar in the first Star Wars with all those crazy characters. That's why some people are comparing this, like this is MCU's version of Star Wars, because as they're walking through, like there's all kinds of different creatures, and there's even a comment from Hank about what he sees. But that's what they're kind of trying to establish here, that there's a whole world that they're exploring, and who knows how far they could go.
The quantum realm has always been a part of the Ant-Man movies. We introduced it in the first Ant-Man and then sent Hank Pym down to rescue Janet Van Dyne in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But this time we take the audience full on into the quantum realm and experience it and live there for a while. And also to sort of answer some of the questions about what it was Janet Van Dyne was doing down there for 30 years and who she was down there. You know, we introduced her in this movie serving pizza to her family in a really domestic situation, which is nice. She's got some good family time, but after they're thrown into the quantum realm, we really start to see Janet come back to life and rediscover who she was down there and confront her past. So that was exciting for us. And also the idea that the quantum realm was really the thing that Scott Lang was able to use to help defeat Thanos in Avengers Endgame. So the quantum realm is really our corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that the Ant-Man movies have been able to play around with, but we really bring it to life in a really vivid fashion in this movie.
It's very tough to describe the quantum realm, but, you know, I think that if early on when we were doing the very first Ant-Man movies, and we had this conversation of like, what if you did just keep getting smaller and smaller? Like if there wasn't a regulator on the belt and you could just get smaller and smaller and smaller until you were in some completely strange landscape in an unknown universe. And what if it was just an unknown universe? Like could that exist? Absolutely could. Maybe we're in a quantum realm right now on terra firma, and everything out there is somebody else's just, universe under someone else's fingernail. I mean, this is the whole thing about science. This exists. This is real, folks. So the movie takes place underneath the fingernail.
Well, for me as the director, creating the quantum realm was one of the big joys of the movie because it was a part of the Marvel Universe that had not been explored, so we got to really create it from the ground up. So, we assembled this mad team of artists, all these concept illustrators, and we just said, come up with your craziest ideas. And the whole idea of like what it was going to look like, what it was going to feel like, what the laws of physics were, and I think we ended up with something pretty incredible.
There are beings down here, intelligent beings. I always theorized it was possible, but to be here, a subatomic universe, this changes everything we know about life, evolution, our place in the galaxy. Holy that guy looks like broccoli.
And just for the record, that beep that you heard was not for me. That was pre-done by the studio. That wasn't me. If I ever have to cut something out, I just leave it blank. I don't have the beep. Just so you know. Up next, from the red carpet, we have so many of the stars talking about just how wonderful it is to have great fans who really follow the story and even dress up like them on the red carpet. So from this interview set, we're going to have Paul Rudd, Jonathan Majors, Evangeline Lilly, and William Jackson Harper, who plays Quaz. Just all talk from the red carpet and just how excited they are just to be there.
Well, nobody has fans like Marvel has fans. And my God, I was coming in and seeing so many people dressed as not just all different kinds of Avengers, but really going for like deep cuts. And I saw a few Baskin Robbins Scott Langs. I saw one person dressed as Anthony the Ant from the first Ant-Man movie. So it was very gratifying for me to see, the real love that people have for Ant-Man, and they're dressing up as, characters that weren't even on the call sheet.
Look, cosplay is cool. it's cool, you know. It's cool to see yourself or see a character you play out in the world like that, you know, that it touches people on a pretty deep level, you know, and they haven't even seen the movie yet.
Wonderful. It's always so cool to see the fans do the cosplay of the Wasp, and especially the little ones. They're the cutest.
I mean, it's intense. The energy is intense. I've never been on a carpet like this before, so it's the first time for me. So I'm sort of just kind of deer in the headlights about it. But it's great to actually get to sort of celebrate this, you know, after working on it for a while. So I'm excited.
Want some more from the red carpet? Why not? It's there to listen to. First, Michael Douglas, Steven Brauzard, Kevin Feige, and director Peyton Reed.
It's an amazing group. I saw about 3 Hank Pyms just a minute ago. It looked better than I did. They're fantastic. No, I didn't grow up with the comics. So for me to see this kind of zealotry and the passion they have and how well they know the stories working together was something very special.
It is a feeling of celebration, you know. It's always mixed with some nerves, obviously, you know. There's a healthy dose of that as well, too, because you're pulling back the curtain on something you've been working on. In this case, almost 4 years, which is pretty crazy to think about. But it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're so proud of the movie, you know. It's been an amazing journey. Peyton's an awesome partner. The cast is amazing. And here we go. It's all about tonight.
You know, I was just talking with Paul Rudd and Peyton Reed, these people who jumped onto this little thing called Ant-Man many, many years ago, and believed us when we said, but we really believe this character, if he connects, can be the key and the linchpin to the bigger universe. And now here we stand at the premiere of Quantumania, which is the kickoff to Phase 5. And as people already saw in Endgame, where he helped save the whole world, which Scott Lang will remind you of if you were ever talk to him.
Well, it kind of never gets old. I mean, the Marvel premieres are always something. Obviously, this is our third Ant-Man movie. We went big on this one, on Quantumania. I'm thrilled because we get to see everybody we made the movie with, and the fans. The fans are always the thing. They show up early and they're out here, and I love it.
Now from the red carpet, we go to controlled area of air quote. I'm doing air quotes here, people. Real interviews. We're gonna hear from Paul Rudd, and finally the director talking about pretty much just try not to bore people, raising the bar.
I think the signature of the Ant-Man movies are family. It's the thing that kind of separates them a little bit from some of the others. One, the hero, the titular hero, and I love saying the word titular, is a parent. That is different than some of the other Avengers. And the relationship between parents and kids is really at the forefront in the strength of family. I think that in Quantumania that exists. And maybe people have been hearing that this one is very different, and it is true. It is epic in scale, and we've got a real big baddie. And it's opened up to this insane, intense, and crazy world that looks different than the first two. But the ideas and the themes and some of the humor and all of the stuff that existed in those other Ant-Man movies, I think is in this one too. It's all of that plus Quantum Universe plus Kang the Conqueror.
I think going into any of these movies, the biggest thing you want to do is surprise the audience. The worst thing you can do is to bore an audience or show them something that they've seen before. So as we took this movie and our characters into the quantum realm, I really wanted to finally present the quantum realm in all its glory. You know, we dipped our toe into it in the first movie and a little bit more in the second movie, but this time the bulk of the movie takes place there. So we were able to work with a team of incredible visual artists and, of course, visual effects artists to really bring the quantum realm to life. So I think that's something that, as our heroes find these unexpected characters and situations down there, we're going to take the audience down with us. And you know, we shot the movie in large format IMAX, so creating that world and all the crazy inhabitants of that world was one of the biggest things that hopefully the audience will be thrilled with.
Now, I have an incredibly stupid question or comment or even thought, and I brought it up to a buddy of mine who has his own comic. He does a lot of comic book stuff, and he has a podcast with his buddy, and he knows everything about this kind of stuff. So I just kind of threw it all to him. And their podcast is Cray-Z Comics and Stories Podcast. It's Cray, K-R-A-Y, and then Z Comics and Stories Podcast. Anywho, I was asking him. Now, we all know Marvel, this is Marvel Studios. In like DC Films or DC Studios, all that jazz, right? Okay, this is probably stupid. But they're on phase 5 now. And how many phases will there be? Will it be phase 127 one day or what have you? But them being a real studio, they're a real studio, will they ever make a movie that's not a superhero related movie? Because it's not Marvel Studios superheroes only. They can still produce shows and or movies that have zero to do with superheroes. And I know, Marvel, it's superheroes. But I thought somebody said at one point, they do have some comic books out there that are not superhero based. But not even that. Could they ever just come up with a story, just randomly, hey, here's a rom-com, or some person goes to work and this is the kind of day they have, or a drama about this, that, or the other. I mean, I don't know. Is that silly? But that'd be a fun challenge. You see, Marvel Studios presents so-and-so, and this dramatic tale, or hey, this really silly comedy, or whatever. Anyway, that was my silly, stupid thought for the day when I start talking about these kind of movies. I'm like, could they ever, or will they ever, make a non-superhero movie? I mean, they're hitting out of the park already, so it's just a moot point, perhaps. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Quantumania. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve the show, let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, or go to any other platform, Instagram, The Cinema Judge, whatever you want to do. I would love to hear from you. Oh, also on YouTube. If you ever want to go to YouTube, I have some podcasts there too. Not as many as I do on the other sites that are out there, but there's a few. If you'd rather go there and leave me a comment, let me know. I would love to grow. Because like I always tell you guys, I can't grow if I don't know. Let me know what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. Now, like I said earlier in the show, if you want to watch the TV version of this, either go to Bloomington, Minnesota's public access channel for Bloomington, Minnesota, or go to bit.ly/cinemajudge. And several shows should show up there on demand whenever you want. So if you want to watch the TV version of this, check it out. There they are. And on those shows, you don't see or hear me at all. It's strictly interviews, movie clips, on-the-set footage, just like that. But now, one of my favorite parts of the show, because it's all about you. Right now, it's shout-out time. For all the people, or not all the people, but a lot of the listeners, this is for people who listened to the last episode. So wherever you are, I hope my voice finds you well. And I love hearing about how you listen to the show. Whether you're driving to work, sitting at home, brushing your teeth, whatever you're doing. I love hearing your stories about that. And it's really fun. When I daydream, all over the world you guys are listening. Whether it be the next day or 2-3 years from now, or whatever you're doing. So I always think, wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. All my listeners from the United States, Poland, Spain, Canada, Vietnam, United Kingdom, Germany, Uzbekistan, Iraq, Russian Federation, Argentina, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Lexington, Kentucky, Vargas, Minnesota, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Coslad, Madrid, Charlotte, North Carolina, Dayton, Ohio, Littleton, Colorado, Morrisville, Pennsylvania, Pickering, Ontario, De Pere, Wisconsin, is that it? Ho Chi Minh, Rushden, Northamptonshire, Holyoke, Mass, Big City, Michigan, Blackshear, Georgia, Frankfurt AM, Maine, Hesse. Oh man, this other one I can't pronounce at all. Sorry guys, and that one I don't know either. And then Moscow and Buenos Aires. Some of you guys, I couldn't pronounce those, but those are probably from, but either way, don't think that I don't give a darn at all, because I love it. All you guys listen to this show just to learn about a movie. I am so moved by that. And don't think for 1 second I don't appreciate it. Every time I see a country, city show up, I always do a happy dance. It's not very pretty, but I do a happy dance because I'm so stoked every time that happens. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thanks for taking time to listen to the show. And if you like it, share it with your friends or family. That'd be super cool too. But now, it's the bourbon shout-out. This week, it goes out to Laura from Design a Bunch Floral. Let me tell you what, Laura is just a beast. She could put together the greatest arrangement ever. It's just, every time she just blows me away. So to you, Laura, cheers. But now it's time for the music section. Now this week, like I told you earlier in the show, I had to do this pretty much 3 times this episode. So it took me a long time to do it. So what I did was, I didn't plan this, but I just did you know how you have a playlist on your phone or your whatever system you might have? What I have is a file called One Hit Wonders, but it's truly not a one hit wonders thing. It's more of I would call it a few hit wonders, because most bands out there, they have usually more than one. I mean, some just have one, but if you dig hard enough, you could find more than that. So my list pretty much compiles of a few hit wonders. So I have a lot of them. So that's what I was throwing down when I was listening to this, and there's just too many various artists to even describe, and this show's getting way long in the tooth already, so I don't want, it's a long story. I'll maybe get into that some other episode. Well, that's it. My glass awaits. I'm thirsty. So cheers to you and to the movies. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.